For 3 months straight, the light in my neighbor's apartment never turned off. Not once. I started keeping track because something about it felt wrong. But the night I realized I'd been watching a dead man's apartment the whole time, I understood why the shadows were still moving. I moved into the apartment building during one of the coldest weeks of the year, the kind of cold that made the hallways smell like wet coats and old carpet. It wasn't a great place, but it was cheap, and after a breakup and a sudden move for work, cheap was all I cared about. The building was quiet, almost too quiet. Most of the tenants kept to themselves. I'd occasionally see an older woman from downstairs walking her dog, or a college kid rushing out late for class. But for the most part, the halls were empty, except for the apartment across from mine, 4C. The living room light was always on. At first, I thought maybe the tenant worked nights and slept during the day, or maybe he was just careless and left it on. But after a week passed, I realized I'd never once seen it turn off. I started keeping track because something about it felt wrong. But the night I realized I'd been watching a dead man's apartment the whole time, I understood why the shadows were still moving. I started noticing it every time I left for work, every time I came home, every time I woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. It was always glowing through the thin gap under his door. Another thing bothered me too. I never saw the neighbor, not once. No footsteps in the hallway, no door opening or closing, no packages outside his apartment. But every night around midnight, shadows moved behind the thin curtains inside his living room. Long, stretched shapes that slowly paced back and forth. Sometimes they'd stop right in front of the door, like someone was standing there listening. I told myself it was just my imagination playing tricks in the dark, until the breathing started. The first time I heard it, I was walking back from the vending machine at the end of the hall. As I passed 4C, there was this low, wet breathing sound coming from inside, like someone struggling to pull air into their lungs. It didn't sound like sleep. It sounded painful. I stood there, frozen, staring at the door. For a moment, I almost knocked, but something about the breathing made my stomach twist. It was too slow, too heavy, like it was coming from a body that wasn't working right anymore. I backed away and hurried into my apartment. Over the next few days, the smell began. At first, it was faint, something sour mixed with metal. Then it grew stronger. By the end of the week, it hit me the second I stepped into the hallway, strongest near 4C. I finally went to the landlord. He looked annoyed more than concerned. His name's Mr. Harlan, quiet guy, keeps to himself. I'll check on him. That night, I couldn't sleep. The shadows moved faster than usual, pacing, stopping, turning, almost like whoever or whatever was inside knew someone was coming. Around midnight, I heard footsteps, then the landlord's voice. "Mr. Harlan, building management." No response, just the breathing, only louder now. The landlord tried again. Nothing. He unlocked the door. The smell exploded into the hallway. I had to cover my mouth. Inside, Mr. Harlan was lying on the couch, or what was left of him. His skin was dark and swollen, his mouth hung open, eyes sunken and cloudy. The police said he'd been dead for at least 2 months, but what made my blood run cold were the footprints. Muddy, barefoot prints all over the apartment, from the couch to the door, back and forth, over and over, as if something had been walking around inside long after he died. The officers tried to explain it away. Gases, muscle spasms, animals. But none of that explained the breathing or the shadows.
They sealed the apartment, boarded the windows, turned off the power. I thought it was over, until that night. The light turned back on, shining through the cracks of the boards, and slowly, a shadow passed across the window.